was I put together the back yoke with the back and the front pockets onto the front. So I just created two pieces, the front and the back. I left extra fabric at the side just in case it was not big enough to get around. And in fact, when I went to put it on my mannequin, my size was not large enough. So I opened up both side seams and so that I could get the back closed, because I couldn't get the back closed and I couldn't get her to lose weight. So I accepted her body just like it was, which is my suggestion for you. And I opened up the sides to allow the center back to close. You don't want to add any circumference at the center back or center front. Leave those just how they are. If you need larger sides, more circumference, we're going to go to the side seams. And you want to make sure it's equal on both sides. Because I left a large seam allowance here, I'm going to go ahead and clip that to release it, because if it's on the outside of a fabric, it'll pull a little bit. So I'm just going to give that clip, 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 clip until you can see that it's released much nicer. And I'm going to do the same thing to the front. We're going to give little clips here. And again, this does not matter if it's male or female. These fitting methods are exactly the same for male or female. So don't get caught up and say, oh, you know, she didn't show me for the male. I'm showing you for both. They're both the same. Okay, it does not matter if you start in the front or in the back. Doesn't make any difference as long as you go to the front and to the back. So in this case, what I've got to do is, because I let out these side seams, I've got to watch both sides and make sure that the amount that I'm taking up or changing is the same on both sides. Because once I take this undone, I'm only going to use one side. So if I make this seam smaller than this seam and then make two of them, then my circumference won't be enough. So I want to make sure that I'm looking at both sides and making sure both sides are the same. And when you're doing a jean, you get to choose how much little or how much circumference you want. So I can make them as tight as you want me to make them, or I can make them as loose as you want me to make them. The fun thing is you're the one who gets to decide how you want them. And so you can make them really, really tight or really, really loose. But I would really recommend that you make them how they're comfortable for you, because you know what? The first pair especially, we could call this our practice pair. And if they're not exactly right, you know what? That's okay. We're going to make another pair. This is not the only pair we're going to make. All right, so I've made that even all the way up, all the way down. I'm going to do both sides the same. People say to me all the time, well, how come you can't do this to yourself? Yeah, you can. You might have to take them off and measure to make sure they're the same. Maybe you can't actually see that they're the same, but you can clearly do this to yourself. So close up both sides. Make sure they're about the same, and you're good to go. That's the circumference. And that circumference is what all of us know as sizing. Sizing equals circumference. Circumference equal sizing, and we are good to go. Both sides are equal. Perfect, perfect. Now what you could do at this point, if you're at home and by yourself and you don't have a little person like me, you could go ahead and simply take them off and stitch up the sides and then put them back on, just to make sure that that circumference is correct, and we're good to go. If I have any little gapping right back here in the back, increase the darts or increase my yoke. You got a yoke back here, so you're going to take a dart right through that yoke. Don't go to the center back seam. The center back seam, if you notice in our picture, it's already on a bias. There's really already a dart back in there. So if I take too much out of that center back seam, it really will start to look kind of funky. It won't really lay right, and it won't be as stable. So I'd much rather go to the darts or to the yoke line as opposed to that center back seam. And you can see I just took that all away, and it's laying really nicely there, and we're good to go. Okay, so now what we're going to address is all this funky stuff under there. The very first place I want you to look for when you're fitting the back part of jeans is the waistline. If the waistline comes too low, this one doesn't, but if it comes too low, then I'm going to slash and pull the waistline up. This one's perfect. I don't have to worry about it. Then I'm going to look at the hip line. There doesn't look like there's any problem there, but I do have extra fabric down there that I don't like. And when I'm fitting jeans, I really want them to be right. So go down there, and that's going to come right out of here in the jean. It's going to come right out at the top of the inseam. I'm leaving the waist alone. I'm leaving the hip alone. I'm going to come right here into the inseam, and I'm going to just take up a little tuck. It's actually a dart. I'm only going to do one side, and then you're going to be able to see the difference between one side or another. And again, if you're doing this by yourself, the knowledge is what you need, because you're going to see that little extra fabric there, and you're going to see immediately when you see that extra fabric that you know you need a dart. And you could even take it off and stitch the dart and then put it back on. But this is a dart. It's not a fisheye, it's a dart. And you can see that that dart just cleans up all that fabric. Now, where the dart starts is in the middle, at the inseam. And it literally tapers to nothing to the side seam. Now, I haven't pinned that all the way, but it's actually going to go all the way to the side. It doesn't matter the angle. It doesn't matter any of that. What I'm doing is I'm actually changing the angle of the pant to where I'm straightening it as opposed to it coming out to an angle like it is. But in order for the pattern to lay flat, I actually have to taper all the way to nothing. All right, so we're going to get that done. And again, what I would recommend you do is just take the pant off, sew it, and then put it back on to check yourself and see if it's the right amount. But look how much nicer this one side looks than this side. You will not be able to get rid of this by taking in circumference. It's not a circumference problem, and so by dealing with it in the circumference way or trying to take it out here, we'll never get rid of that extra. That extra is going to come from a dart, and it's going to come from the inseam and then taper nothing to out here. I'm going to do the exact same thing in the front. Because the inseam sews to itself, once I do that to the back, I have to do that to the front also. It's the same amount in the front as it is in the back. And then again, it comes all the way around to the front of the leg and tapers to nothing. This is the greatest little trick in making your own jeans. And I promise you, in all the many jeans I've tried on over the years, you just never can get one right because our bodies just shift too much. That's why I say we're going to spoil you to the point where you're never going to buy another pair of these jeans. You're going to just love making them. And I will say that I've made many pairs. These are the ones I've made. These are the ones I've bought. And these are all my newer ones, and the ones I have on I made too because I just love them. I just love how they fit, and I love the control. I can choose the fabric. We're going to show you a great method of a fly front, so you're going to see it really just doesn't. It's just fun. All right, so in the front now, I've still got a little extra wrinkle here, and I'm going to take a dart out right there. And again, just because of the body and just because of the way the body accumulates fat and all that other fun stuff, there's a little dart that I'm going to be able to take there. And again, it's not a tuck, it's a dart. So the widest part is at the center front. It tapers to nothing at the side seam. So it has to go all the way to the side and just gradually go to nothing. And so again, what I would do is once you've done this, and you all can see whether this is happening or not, I would simply take the pant off, I would sew the changes, and then put the muslin back on. And just be patient with the process until you decide that that's the way you like. The darts need to come in just a little bit so that it'll stay in place, that it won't slide down. And then look at the difference, how nice that looks versus that over there. But the only difference is two little darts. Just knowing where the darts are, how to control what's going on, and fix them. So we've got this stellar fit now, and this lady is good to rock. All right, so you can do a couple things now once you're happy with the fit. You can stitch those in, reduce this muslin down to a 3/8 inch seam allowance, and then just use that as your pattern if you decide you want to. Or you can go back to the tissue and you can say, all right, I made a 1/2 inch tuck here, so I'm going to come into the top of the inseam and make a 1/2 inch tuck. The 1/2 inch tuck happens here. It tapers to nothing all the way across. The middle parts are not important. What happens in between is not important. The only thing that's important is how much you took away here and that it tapers to nothing over here. It doesn't matter where it tapers to nothing. It does matter where you took it because that's following the contour of your body. So in the front of the pant here, we'll go to the front. If I measure down and it was X number of inches, I want to do that exact same measurement on my tissue and actually fold out the same amount at the same place. But where it goes to over here just doesn't make a difference. Okay, so I have two options there. I've done my changes, I've sewn my changes, I'm happy with them. I can either make this my pattern, or I can go ahead and take those darts back to the tissue and keep the tissue as my base. Many of you over the years have said to me, well, do I need to fuse it? Do I need to put it on cardboard? No, you don't need to do any of that. The number of times you transfer that, or the number of times more likely you are to make a mistake. So I think it's easiest if you just literally come up with the muslin, use the muslin as your pattern, and call it good. Also, once you have it off and you've draped that side seam, I would strongly recommend that you come in and make sure it follows a French curve. Just literally on your cloth, because sometimes when you pin, the pins are kind of a little jagged. So once you take that off, just lay a French curve on it and make sure it follows somewhere on the French curve. It doesn't matter where, and just line the French curve up and down until it hits the majority of the places. But at some point, you want to fine-tune your changes with that French curve. So the fit is from the crotch up. And notice that it's the length of the crotch, the shape of the waist, the shape of the hip. Those things make up the fit of my jeans.